Hello everyone, welcome back to the Spaceport channel, here with Danny today, and today's video is going to be unscripted, informational / my opinion on why I feel Star Wars Rebels was just so pivotal into the current success of Star Wars as a franchise as a whole. So this is one of my favourite shows, and it really gets at me when a lot of people say that they don't like it. And that is obviously biased, but on top of that, there's a lot of reasons to why the current success and a lot of the media that's being put out at the moment that people are very much enjoying stemmed from Star Wars Rebels. So in today's video, I'm going to try and convince you guys, if you haven't watched it, to go and watch it, or if you have and you're not really a fan of it, just to add a little bit more of depth as to why I feel it was just so important for the franchise. So if you're new, like and subscribe for more Star Wars film and gaming content, and let's get into it. So kind of bullet pointed it here. I want to talk about the base of what it done at the time when it came out. I want to talk about the characters and which ones they introduced, which ones affected the galaxy, etc, etc, and the timing of when it came out and what it did when there was nothing else. So the base, a lot of the new shows actually have stemmed from Star Wars Rebels, and not only Star Wars Rebels in terms of the timeline before Episode 4, but the ending of Rebels and the branch out after Episode 6. We have the Ahsoka show that's been completely based around the Rebels show, which is leading into, hopefully, obviously we don't know what's going on, but the Skeleton Crew. As well as the Skeleton Crew, we're having the Mandalorian and showing them what they done to build the First Order. And we also got a lot of depth from Rebels about the Mandalorian War with Sabine and stuff. And that kind of segued into that show, which a lot of people liked, that, I guess you could say, arc when Mando has the Darksaber. Of course, still got it. But yeah, it really added a lot of depth after the Clone Wars as to what happened to the Darksaber, what happened with the Mandalorians, and it helped base that show, which was one of the most popular shows to date, as well as that being fit into a timeline where Rogue One was as well. I think Star Wars Rebels is a great show. And it's a bit like Clone Wars, whereas if you get through the first 1 or 2 seasons, because I know a lot of people don't really like the simple job, money, Disney-fied stuff, that you get to the good bit with like Thrawn and the Mandalorian War and the battle on Atollon, I believe. I'm not going to try and ruin it for anyone who is watching this that hasn't watched it, but the show gave a lot of good bases for a lot of things to stem off it. Like what we're going to be getting with, hopefully, Thrawn and Ezra, and The Mandalorian now going into its 3rd season, I believe, the Skeleton Crew. And then also, it gave a great base for a lot of shows around it, like The Bad Batch, like Andor, and I think it just adds another good timestamp, kind of like Episode 4 or the Battle of Endor in the galaxies, so that they can help mold the shows and bring a lot of the shows and the canon lore together so it can make sense when someone watches it through. The characters that they introduced, like I've just mentioned, Ezra and Thrawn, are some of the best characters, I believe, that we've had in Star Wars, especially Thrawn. Thrawn has got to be one of my absolute favourites, and I know that is a popular opinion. A lot of people really enjoy his character. We got Kanan. And then we got to see more depth on the Inquisitors. We got Maul back. And then we had the Season 2 finale with Vader, which was one of the most iconic scenes, I believe, in Star Wars. It was amazing. Everyone knows that. Everyone loves that. And it introduced a lot of like new things that we didn't really get too much depth on, which was really interesting. We got the whole world between worlds, which is a big like thing. I know not many people like it, but it gives us another like timeline if they want to extend the series once they flush out the story from Episode 3 all the way through to Episode 4 right now, which we have with the Bad Batch, Andor, Kenobi, and obviously we have Rebels in that timeline, as well as Fallen Order and a few other things. So I feel like it introduced some really strong characters, both for the Rebellion, and gave us some depth as to how the Empire worked, because apart from what we got in the movies, we never really saw that. So which is what I want to segue on and talk about, actually. The timing, when it came out. So when it came out, I believe, I can't remember the year, but it was before everything else came out. Anyway, in that timeline, there was no Andor, there was no Kenobi, there was no Fallen Order. So when it came out, it was new. No one really got to see the in-depth, the works of the Empire, apart from, obviously, the originals. We got a lot of depth as to what the Empire did on a daily basis, how badly they treated citizens, how fully occupied they were across the whole galaxy, and what Palpatine wanted to do with his soldiers, and how little ragtag teams and how the rebellion operated to try and negate this operation, which was the Galactic Empire, by having, instead of building one big team, we had different little sections of cells. So the Ghost Crew was one cell, we had other cells, we had freedom fighters like Saw Gerrera, and there was a lot of cells which eventually binded together to help push and deflect the Imperial War Fist, if you like. And there wasn't really much at the time. I believe Rogue One came out after Rebels. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But I believe that the Rebels show has been extremely pivotal in a lot of the shows that we've gotten, and a lot of the memorable content that we've gotten recently, from the Bad Batch to Kenobi to Andor, because the Andor prison stuff everyone thought was new. We actually see something similar in Rebels, where Thrawn actually goes to a construction thing on Lothal, and it was a similar white grey prison, well, not really a prison but a workstation, but they have to go, right? It's like a thing, and they were actually rigging the bikes so that they wouldn't work, so they would blow up. Little things like that we got to see, and added a lot of depth, I felt, into the characters, and into the show, and into the Empire, which, if you haven't made it to later seasons, or you haven't even gave Rebels a chance, I feel like you're missing out on. I feel like there's a lot of good stuff in there. It shows us how troopers are trained, how it's very easily corruptible. I do understand people's qualms with it being a little bit more Disney-fied, but I actually enjoy the earlier seasons because I kind of like that, just roaming around the streets doing little jobs. It was quite, they made it quite enjoyable. And then on top of that, we got to see Kanan training with Sabine, teaching her lessons on how to actually fight with the sword and the weight it carries. But then we got to see her Mandalorian side. There was a lot of depth, and I'm kind of jumping around, but I believe that there's so many pros to watching the show that if you haven't, I believe that you should give it a chance. I've watched it many a times. I've watched Clone Wars many a times. And a lot of the stuff that we see stemmed, and a lot of the Easter eggs that we get in a lot of shows, are actually from Star Wars Rebels. So, to sum this up, I know I've been a bit all over the place. I feel like a lot of the shows that we're getting currently are stemming from Rebels, and it gives us a good timeline base for a lot of the shows that have came out, like Kenobi, like Andor, like Bad Batch, and it's helped mold the galaxy and the story in a better way, in my opinion. So if you haven't watched the show, I believe that you should give it a watch, and let me know what you think in the comments. Did I base this video well? Did you agree with my points? Did you disagree? Let me know in the comments. I feel like it's one of my favorites. There is a little bit of bias there because I love the show. The art style isn't too bad. It's cool. You know, there's a lot of informational stuff in there. The Mandalorian War, the new rebel base that they tried to form, the cells, the in-works of the Empire, Callus, which we've not even spoke about, the Fulcrum stuff. So there's a lot of good stuff in there, and I believe that you should give it a watch. If you enjoyed today's video, leave a like and subscribe to the Spaceport channel for more informational, discussion, movie-based, and gaming content surrounding Star Wars. Thanks for watching. It's been Danny. Hopefully you've enjoyed. Give Rebels a watch. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.